All right. We're live on Facebook, apparently. I think I got it to work. Knock on wood. If you're not aware, this is a webinar. This is our third one we're doing. Um, and I cannot interact with you on Facebook Live. I need you to join the webinar. It's linked below. Um, Post before the live should be the link to join the webinar. So if you'd like to join in and chat and interact as we go on, I cannot see your interactions in Facebook Live. I need you to join the webinar in order to interact and post questions and things like that. Get rid of. Let's get some business out of the way. You are. My name is Joaquin Watai. I'm the author of the book PTSDog, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder and the Service Dog. I'm also the author of the newly published children's book, Why Is That Doggy in the Store? Which was illustrated by Coast Guard veteran Carla Nimitz. If you're not familiar with this children's book, please check it out on Amazon.com. Why Is That Doggy in the Store? It's only available on Amazon. Um, this is a really great tool to educate children and their parents about how to behave appropriately when they see a service dog. I really highly encourage you to share this. Um, get a copy for yourself, get a copy for your kids, donate copies to your libraries. I'm not telling you that because I want to make money. I'm telling you that because this book is literally, I wrote this book so that the adults reading it to the kids learn from it. That's why this book is here, because education is one of our biggest challenges, and we got to try and teach as many people as we can, any way we can. And a great way to reach the adults is by teaching their children with a children's book. Carla, the Coast Guard veteran Carla Nimitz, who illustrated it, did an absolutely delightful job. I am more than happy with her illustrations. I think that's just fantastic all around. Great way to reach out to children and their families and teach them about service dogs. Shane, I see you in there. I'm going to keep people a couple more minutes. This is going to be a controversial webinar. We're going to have a controversial conversation today. Why is it going to be controversial? Because there is a class of handler and trainers who will dig their heels in, absolutely disagree with everything I'm about to say, and claim that I'm full of nonsense, that I'm full of BS, and that's fine. I'm sharing my opinion and my personal experience, and you could take it or leave it. But we're going to talk about equipment, and I'm not talking about vests and harnesses and things. I'm talking about training aids. I'm talking about pinch collars, e-collars, choke chains, um, that kind of equipment is what I'm going to discuss. But I'm not going to talk about it the way you think I'm going to talk about it. And I'm not going to slam it. And I'm going to say right now, this discussion is not intended to upset anybody or call anybody out. That's not what this is about. That's not why I'm here. I'm not saying that it is wrong to use equipment. Not at all. Okay. That is not what I'm here to do. So get that out of your head right now. I want you to approach it. I want you to approach this conversation um, with an open mind to think about a different point of view. Okay. That's all I want you to do is think about a different point of view. Once again, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, I cannot interact with you on Facebook Live. I need you to join the webinar. The link is in the post in the group right below the live video. It should be right below the live video. Just click the link, follow the instructions. It's very simple. You do not have to have a Zoom account. Nobody's going to hack the webinar or anything like that. I am the only person who can share video and audio. And I have no images or anything to put up for this. So please join in, uh, become a part of the conversation, and share some of your experience if you have experience in what we're about to talk to. We're going to talk about equipment. And I'm going to make a very bold statement. but then I'm going to back it up. I'm going to tell you that a pinch collar, an e-collar, a snoot loop, or easy walk harness, the easy walk nose loop. All of these are mechanical solutions to training problems. Okay, doesn't mean they're not useful, and it doesn't mean that to your level of capability that might be the tools you need to use in order to train your dog. But this is what I want you to think about in regards to training a service dog specifically, and even more specifically, a PTSD service dog. And even back off a little bit, less specifically, a psychiatric service dog. Okay, everything that a PTSD or psychiatric or even medical alert service dog does is built on the bond that you form with your dog, on the trust, mutual trust, you trusting your dog trusting you, and the love, the bond that you build with your dog, that you create with your dog. And I want to use a little bit of a comparison. I want to talk about, okay, you've seen parents who all they ever do is yell at their children and tell them no, 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 right? Everything's wrong. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Stop. Don't do that. You can't do that. Don't do that. No, no, no. Okay. I've seen dog handlers who are the same way. All they tell their dog is no. Well, in both cases, in my experience, what you get when the only feedback that a dog or a child gets is no is anxiety, neurotic behavior, insecurity, no level of comfort in security and consistency. So you get both a person and an animal who doesn't know how to react because everything they do is they're always told no. It's always wrong. Okay. Now, I want you to change your focus, change your thinking. Instead of thinking about training your dog, what not to do. Okay. Instead of training your dog coercively, adversely, no, 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 no. What about focusing on training your dog, teaching your dog what you do want him to do or her? Okay. So change your focus from no, 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 no to yes, this. Good job. Good dog. Good dog. Go left. Good dog. Go right. Good dog. Sit. Good dog. Stay. Good dog. Yes. Okay. Think about changing your focus from preventing the dog from doing what you don't want it to do to teaching the dog what you do want it to do. Change your whole mindset. Okay. And I'm going to throw out and again, I am not trying to debunk the stages of training. I'm just asking you to set aside all that knowledge, all that historical knowledge, historical methods, okay, and think about trying a new direction. And here's why. If you have a service dog that's there because if it doesn't do what you ask it to, it gets pinched or shocked or yanked or whatever, how focused is that dog on actually doing what you needed to do on you and on alerting to you what's going on with you, as opposed to how focused it is to I have to act this way or it'll hurt. Okay. And now I'm using extremes. I understand pinch collars shouldn't be used for pain. Okay. Don't that's not what we're arguing about here. We're not arguing. Okay. I'm asking you to change your perspective. I'm asking you to think it through a little differently. Okay. When I see one of the things that I think is most egregious about the third-party training organizations that hand off fully trained, quote unquote, service dogs to veterans is they hand them off with a pinch collar and tell him if he does something you don't want him to do, just pull on that. They don't even teach them how to use it safely. Okay. These are the things that I'm thinking about. But again, if you have a dog who performs its tasks, does its job out of fear of what happens if it doesn't do what it's told, okay, how effective of a service dog is that? Whereas if you have a dog that, because of its bond and its security with you as its handler, as its owner, um, desires, absolutely desires to be right there where it is, wants to fulfill your needs, wants to alert you, wants to watch over you, wants to watch your six, wants to be there. Skeeter absolutely wants to work. He loves to go do his job. He doesn't care if we go to the grocery store, if we go to a movie. It doesn't matter as long as he gets to go do his work. I have never used an adversive training device on Skeeter. Never hit him. I've bit him a couple times. That's a Malamute style adjustment that needed to happen when he was very young. That wasn't punishment as much as it was about hierarchy, uh, but no punishment. Potty training takes longer when you do it this way. When you don't, but they've discovered that rubbing the dog's nose in it and beating them with a newspaper, right? That's all. That's been outdated for what, 30 years now. Okay, it's been a long time since they said that's not how you potty train a dog. How did I potty train Skeeter? Well, first of all, I set him on a schedule, so he had consistency. There's a big block, a big thing you need in training any dog, but especially training a service dog: consistency. Every morning, no matter what, at 7 a.m., Skeeter went outside every morning. Okay. By Then he came in, he got fed. We had about, usually about 40 minutes, and then we go out again. Okay. Then he had about an hour and a half break, and then we go out again. And this is when he's a little guy, 12, 15 pounds. But we established consistency and a schedule. We maintained that schedule, moved him into, once he was weaned and away from the litter, moved him into crate sleeping, crate training. I'm very much a proponent of crate training, um, for many reasons, one of which is, again, consistency and confidence. Um, Malamutes, especially in dogs, northern breeds that are more similar wolves than others, Malamutes like to den. They like to dig dens. They like to sleep in dens. That's one of the biggest complaints of any breeder, is that their mouths dig tunnels. Well, they're denning. That's natural. A crate substitutes for that hole in the ground, and it becomes a safe place, a quiet place. Skeeter would go, when he needed a break, he'd go put himself in his crate. Okay. I believe very strongly in crate training, because another reason is, again, natural instinct. The last thing that a dog wants to do, if it's nurtured correctly by its mama, is to potty where it sleeps. The mamas clean the area where they sleep. They push the puppies when they can sense the puppy needs to go potty. They push them out of where they're sleeping. Teach them, no, not here. Okay. Well, that carries to the crate. There are some reasons why sometimes that doesn't work. The dog wasn't weaned right, or was weaned too early. I mean, it's not a solve all cure all. I'm saying this is the ideal. And again, this is the same with equipment. Look, some people don't have the capability or the understanding to be able to train without using some types of equipment. For example, say you have a person who's got very weakened or damaged hands, bad nerve issues or something, and they just can't hold a leash firmly enough to be able to handle a flat collar on a dog that might want to pull. So the solution is, in order to assist them physically, to project their wishes up and down the leash, is a pinch collar that might be appropriate. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm saying rethink why you're using them and how you're using them. Okay. Uh, it's better to teach the dog what you do want it to do, so that it begins to desire to do what you want it to do, because that gets positive feedback, it gets positive response, it gets praise, it gets treats, it gets whatever motivates your dog. What's your dog's drive? Best One of the best military working dogs I ever saw, and I mean this dog was incredible, bomb sniffing dog, and bite trade military working dog. Um, did everything for 30 seconds of playing fetch with his tennis ball. Everything. And this dog won, it was back in 2002 or 2003, was the number one military working dog, won all of the prestigious awards for the entire Pacific theater, the entire Pacific half of the world, all military facilities. This dog won. And his entire motivation was to play with his tennis ball. Positive. Just if he does it right, he gets to play. If he doesn't do it right, his handler goes back, shows him what he needs him to do, make sure that he's communicating correctly, that the dog's understanding what he's trying to communicate, what he's asking it. And when he does it, reward it. Okay. That's the whole basis. It's a whole change and shift, a shift in thinking. Train your dog to do what you want it to do rather than teaching it what not to do. And it won't even cross the dog's mind to do the naughty stuff. Okay. Because the dog's being shown how you want it to behave and what you want it to do. So, and again, does this take longer? Is this harder? Absolutely. But you know what else it forces? It forces you to get into your dog's head. It forces your dog to get into your head. It forces you to build a team, to become partners. Okay. It is not the easy way, and it's challenging, and you may need help. I did when I was training Skeeter. I got to a point where I thought I was doing everything wrong. I took him to Canine Good Citizenship class at PetSmart, and just so happened I lucked out. The trainer was a behaviorist, and he took me aside after the first session and said, "You don't need to be here." He said, "The only problem you have is you're not listening to what your dog's telling you." We got our CGC and our advanced CGC, which were only titles that were available at that time 10 years ago, in 5 weeks. We got both certificates because the light went on in my head. Skater knew what he was doing. He was the smart end of the leash. I'll tell you that right now. The one with 4 legs is the smart end of the leash. It was me that was having problems. Once I figured out how to listen, how to pick up what he's telling me, and how to communicate what I needed to him a little more clearly, we stopped having any problems. We were literally within 6 weeks of starting that training, we were doing public access. We had it down. It was just a matter of making sure we were speaking the same language. Okay. And I taught a dog that's bred to pull large amounts of weights for long distances, not to pull. It took me 10 minutes. Not by jerking on a collar and saying no every time he pulled, but by showing him what he could do, what I wanted him to do. And that if he wanted to get what he wanted, which was he wanted to get over to those bushes so he could sniff them and pee on them, right? But he wanted to pull me over there. So how did we do it? How did I teach Skeeter not to pull? Pretty simple. We had set up so that he would sit, and then he would get the command, "Let's go," to start walking. I picked a line, literally a line in the PetSmart parking lot. That was my starting point. And made him sit. That was start. And then said, "Let's go." We started walking. The instant he shot forward and started to pull, I turned around abruptly, went back to the starting point, turned back around and reset him. Sit. Okay, let's go. 3 times. He started pulling, turn around, go back to the starting point. The same stop, the same spot, exactly. Consistency. Okay, sat, ready, let's go. 3rd time he pulls. But he's looking at me this time, looking over his shoulder like, wait a minute. Turn around, go back, sit. All right, are you ready? Let's go. 4th time, he looked at me, looked at the bushes, I continued to walk him towards the bushes because I knew he needed to pee. I knew what he was doing. Once he realized that if he didn't pull me, we'd go exactly where he wanted to go, he stopped pulling. He didn't pull me into the store after he went potty. He didn't pull me up and down the aisles. He didn't pull me when he saw the other dogs because we were actually on our way into the PetSmart to the training class. He didn't pull because he knew if he didn't pull me, we'd keep moving forward and it would be interesting. And we'd even get to do things he wanted, like go pee in the bushes. Not me, him. Okay. Once he figured out that he would get his way if he didn't pull, and I didn't teach him not to pull, I taught him to cooperate. Now think about that. I did not teach Skeeter not to pull. I taught him to cooperate with me so that we could go where we needed to go together. Okay. Now Tav's in here. Tav's a trainer. Tav's one of the people who might get upset at me for talking about this. And that's okay. Again, I'm not saying don't use the equipment, don't use the tools. You need to train the dog in front of you. There are some dogs that look, Freya, Boogie, she just does not respond the same way. Period. I've got to use a martingale with her. She just doesn't get it that no, we're going to do this. She will pull and pull and pull. She doesn't care. And I've gone through the drills over and over with her. Sometimes some dogs, yeah, they do need equipment. They do need that little uh or whatever you want to call it to change their focus and change their mind. Does happen, okay? And I'm not saying it's not appropriate. But what I am saying is when it comes to a service dog, you want to choose the dog that desires to work for you. You want to choose the dog that wants to be there. And there I have. Okay, I finally have the chat up. Hi, Heidi. But again, it all is about what you're where your head's at. Do you want to build a cooperative relationship? Do you want to build a cooperative relationship where your dog desires to do what you want it to do? Or do you want to have to control your dog with aversive methods? It's a complete, and it's not easy. What I'm telling you, positive reinforcement, this is the hard way. I will tell you, you can train a dog faster and be pretty steady. I mean, pretty reliable using the aversive methods. Okay. That is possible. However, what do you want the dog to do? What are you looking for from the dog? Do you want the dog to want to be there? And so this forces now, if you're going to make the determination, the decision that you're not going to use those kind of devices, that changes the dog you find. Okay. You have to find the dog. That's harder too. And I can't tell you how to find the dog. I can't tell you that. I can tell you things I look for, but that's for me. That may not be for you. For me, the dog that I look for is a dog that's first of all confident. And when you look in, this is my choice. I prefer to start with puppies. I prefer purebred, where I understand the health lines, understand the potential for genetic issues, understand the behaviors, the personalities of the parents, so that I can make a more informed decision about the animal that I'm going to take in and try to train. Okay. That's my preference. It's if you want to go do rescues, go do rescues. Okay. Go get rescues. That's fine. That's whatever works for you, what's your preference. And I'm not saying I won't stumble across a rescue dog that's just absolutely, that's the dog. Okay. The thing about picking the right dog is sometimes, well, first of all, the dog picks you. If you say, well, if I go into it saying, well, I want another Malamute, I'll never find the right dog. If I stumble across a Malamute that's right, and that dog kind of, I don't know how to put it, the dog picks you. Well, then I've probably found the right dog. But I'm intentionally not looking for another Malamute right now, because our plan is to stay in the South, and it would be unkind to a new dog, to a new Malamute, to put them through the temperatures and the, because I'll tell you, poor Skeet is miserable in the heat in the summer. Um, so I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to get a short-haired dog. I need a bigger dog. I need a Mastiff. I know what I need as far as the physical build of the animal. Um, so, um, but I understand what my needs are. But so if I'm looking at a litter of puppies, and this worked when I was breeding, I donated several Malamute puppies to be trained as service dogs to veterans, and it worked. Okay, so look at the. Here's what I did. I would look at the litter, and there were many litters where there just wasn't the right dog. But I'd look for the puppy that when somebody walked into the room, all the puppies usually would just come tearing up to the person, jumping all over them, wanting to, all excited. Oh, people, 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 people. Okay. Okay. There we go. We're having microphone issues. Sorry. It seems to be getting back. Okay. So again, I was looking for the puppy that sat back and watched. Okay. So the puppy that sat back and watched and saw what everybody else was doing before it decided how it was going to react. That was number one thing I looked for. I was looking for the puppy that was the thinker. Um, Second, I looked for the puppy that didn't care what the other puppies were doing. So the thinking puppy would not go pounce on its brothers and sisters and shove them out of the way. It would just work its way in to come up and get the attention. Okay. So that tells me that that puppy's drive is not to be dominant over the other puppies, and it's not scared of the other puppies. Okay. That's important. You don't want a dog that wants to dominate everybody, but you also want a dog that isn't afraid. Okay. So you want a thinking dog and a confident dog that is not aggressive, is the wrong word. So I will say assertive. Okay. You want confident, but not get out of my way, I'm the boss kind of behavior. Um, and then, if you meet those three, then you want the dog that's not going to react to too much, or overreact, I should say. So, clap your hands or something, make a loud noise. And usually that confident, assertive dog that's a thinker won't immediately respond in fear to a loud noise like clapping or dropping a book. The dog will usually think about what it's seeing and decide how to respond based on how you're behaving. If you're making a loud noise like dropping a book and just standing there and not responding, the dog will pick up on you and see, then you start to see the connection. Okay. So if I find that puppy that meets all those requirements, that's the puppy that I would choose. And I would donate it to a veteran to train. And we've got some very successful teams out there that I bred that I use that method. Um, I I chose the dog that I would want to take Skeeter's place, and it worked every single time I donated a dog to a veteran. So that's what I choose. Okay, but again, you have to go. If you're going to choose to train a dog without using any of the coercive or the negative um, things, then you're going to have to look harder for the right dog. You're going to have to look for that dog that connects with you, that there's just some spark that you can build on immediately, because that dog, you and that dog are kind of going to, I don't know how to call it. You're going to bond. You're going to build kind of an impression with one another. Um, I don't know how to describe it. Skeeter, one of the biggest complaints my ex-wife had about Skeeter was he would only listen to me. And that's true. I was the only person who could tell him what to do. Even the kids couldn't take him outside. I had to do it because he wouldn't listen to them. He decided he was my dog, period. He's still my dog. He'll listen to Nevermore, and he'll let her son take him out potty. But 9 times out of 10, the teenager comes back in and says, Skeeter's gone, because he doesn't listen to him. He's like, oh, an opportunity to go. Here we go. Okay. But he comes right back as soon as I call him. And he'll come back when mama calls him. But that's his decision. He decided to listen to Nevermore. But anybody else tries to get him to do something, he looks at him like, who are you? I don't know you. He just does not. He will not. He is my dog, period. He's always been my dog. That bond with him has been immutable. There's no changing it. There's no taking it back. There's nothing that'll break it. Skeeter and I are just that is the ideal relationship. It is the ideal relationship. Is it every time you get a service dog? No. You have to find that right dog. And this is the hard part. Think about having a service dog this way. A service dog is not a fashion statement. It's not a fad. It's not a trend. Okay. When we're talking about PTSD service dogs, we're talking psych service dogs. We need to remember that what we are looking for is a lifeline. We are looking for a prosthetic. Just the same way that a prosthetic leg connects an amputee from their knee or wherever they're amputated to the ground. This, in the same way, a PTSD service dog connects your perception with your amygdala, your fight or flight, and replaces the filters. It's PTSD. Remember, jumps the filters, jumps the reason center, and goes directly from perception to fight and flight. So fight or flight is stuck on. Okay. The PTSD service dog is like a prosthetic that fits in there that you can rely on, that you know because you train them, that you can rely on that dog to let you know if a situation that you are perceiving as danger is dangerous or not. And you learn to trust your dog's judgment on that situation. I'm sorry, the allergies, the pollen here is beyond out of control right now. My eyes are itching like crazy. But that's how the PTSD service dog works. Is they're essentially a prosthetic for your brain. You're hardwired now from perception to fight and flight response in the amygdala. The dog steps in and it becomes the circuit breaker that you no longer have. And you learn to trust the dog so that you're not jumping from, oh my God, look at that. It's danger, 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 danger. Okay. You look at your dog and you let your dog make the judgment whether or not it's danger. And you trust your dog. That's the best analogy I can think of to how a PTSD service dog works, is a prosthetic. It just happens. I guess it may be time to get a new microphone. The dog is just as vital to the disabled handler as the the prosthetic leg, is to the disabled walker. So it's in the same way. It's just as important. In order to have that trust, you have to train. You have to build that bond. Again, consistency. Consistency beyond no matter how you decide to train, what equipment you decide to use, doesn't matter. You must be consistent. You must have right down to the nitpickiness of you feed. If you potty every morning at 7 and feed, at 7:15, I mean, you've got to be consistent. You can't start being inconsistent and giving the dog unexpected situations unless there's a baseline of consistency to build off of. Okay, Skeeter's able to do all the crazy stuff we do. Well, not right now, but go places, travel across the country, meet strangers, because he had a consistent baseline that built his ability to trust me that I would not put him into situations that would endanger him. That everything, that consistency, if you are not consistent with your dog, then your dog is insecure because they don't know, well, what is the rule? What can I do? Where is my boundary? If the dog's like a Malamute, if they're smart, they'll take it upon themselves to start making rules if you're not providing the right leadership. Um, and what is right and wrong behavior for a dog in the dog world is different than what's right and wrong behavior that humans would desire to see from a dog. So, we talk about there are bad dogs and out of control dogs. No, they're not. They're untrained dogs. Dogs that didn't receive consistency, dogs that decided since they weren't getting any kind of guidance of how they were supposed to behave, they'd make up their own rules. And dog logic is dog logic, not people logic. So what their rules look like is different. And we perceive it as bad behavior. That's Skeeter, his mother, and a husky we were babysitting are responsible for the Great Chicken Massacre of 2013. They killed 36 birds in about 30 seconds flat between 3 dogs. Skeeter was right there with them, snatching a bird, shaking it, dropping it, snatching the next bird, shaking it, and dropping it. I couldn't be upset. It was my fault. First of all, I didn't make sure the fence was secure. Second of all, I didn't have the dog, I was letting the birds free range. And third, the dog that we were babysitting, the husky that taught Skeeter and his mother to jump the fence, I didn't know that she was a jumper. I wasn't aware of her behavior. That's my fault. I couldn't be mad at Skeeter and his mom or the husky for doing what dogs do. They were just being dogs. I take full responsibility for the loss of that flock of chickens. That was my fault because I did not set my dog up to succeed. I didn't understand the behavior of the husky. The environment wasn't secure enough, and I didn't have the birds secured. My fault. So why would I punish him? I could have gotten really mad. And I mean, there's some people who, oh, I remember my dad, the dog killed the chickens and my dad beat that dog. Well, all that teaches the dog is that you're mean and you're bigger than it. That's all the dog learns when you beat it because it was being a dog. Okay. Change your perspective from punishing the dog because it's doing something you don't want it to do to training the dog to do what you do want it to do. If you're consistent, again, back to consistency, if you're consistent in rewarding the behavior you desire, your dog's going to become consistent in performing the behaviors you desire because it wants to be rewarded. Okay, but when you punish, you build resentment. Think about it with kids. Every time you got in trouble when you were a kid, you got yelled at. Some of us were spanked. How did you feel after that happened? You were pissed and you resented. Now, we have the intellectual capacity to take that and turn it and try to learn from it. Dogs don't necessarily have that same intellectual capability that we do. Where we can reason, well, I said a cuss word and I got slapped. I got my face slapped for cussing at my mother. Okay. That's the logic. So the logic is don't cuss at your mother. Okay. because we have a history, we have memory, and we connect cause and effect. Dogs don't necessarily do that. Their brains aren't wired the same way ours are. And I'm not a dog psychiatrist or psychologist, and I'm just telling you what years and years of experience is. Dog sees a bird and wants to go get the bird because that's his nature, is that he's a hunter and it looks like food, and so he goes and chases the bird. What could I have done to prevent that from happening? Well, first of all, my dog could have been on a leash. He was in the backyard, which had a fence. Okay, then the fence could have been much better and more secured. And you could be darn tootin' after I figured out that those dogs had learned how to jump over the fence, that fence became much sturdier and much better secured in about an hour and a half's worth of time. We rebuilt that fence so that it couldn't happen again. Okay, but it's, you know what, it's like closing the doors after the horses have already run out of the barn, you know. um too little too late. I learned the lesson the hard way. It cost me my chickens. Okay, but again, I wasn't mad at him. I couldn't be mad at him for being a dog. I could learn the lesson and be upset with myself for setting my dog up to fail. Okay, we have to think that way. You have to change your whole perspective of thinking if you're going to train this way. If you're going to teach the dog to do what you do want the dog to do, rather than continuously telling the dog, no, stop, no, 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 and just telling it what you don't want it to do. What does the dog learn when all you teach it is what you don't want it to do? The dog learns what not to do, but guess what the dog does not learn? What to do. This is a change. This is a shift. It's been going on for a few years. I can recommend some reading. Don't Shoot the Dog by Karen Pryor is a great place to start to understand the concept of positive reinforcement. I really recommend, if you really want to think about this stuff and kind of think about it, change your mindset about it. That's a great book. That's a great place to start. There's a lot of literature out there about positive reinforcement style training. But the thing that I don't see that I think is the shift in thought that I feel has been most effective for me is the shift from focusing on training your dog what not to do to focusing on training your dog what to do, what you do desire, what you want the dog to do. That's the trick. That's where the bond comes in. That's where you and your dog have to communicate. That's where when your dog looks at you like, you crazy? You need to learn to listen. You need to go, oh, am I not communicating what I need clearly enough? Am I asking the dog to do something that the dog's afraid to do? You know, if the dog's afraid to do it, how can I train the dog around it? Okay, another example. And I think I've told I've told it on the Service Dog Show. When Skeeter and I first went to a store with automatic opening doors, we walked up to the doors and they opened, and he about shit. It terrified him. He wanted to go the other way. He was like, no way, no, no. It scared him. He'd never seen one before. Okay. So I took him back in the truck, which he loved. Truck, positive, go for a ride, truck. Took him back to the truck and we left. We came back the next day to the parking lot. We got out and he just got to potty. We came back the next day, got out, he got to potty, and then we walked towards the door, but not close enough that he would trip the opening. And just had him sit and watch. Okay. Well, the next day, I walked him just to the edge again. First stop, routine, consistency. We park, get out, he potties. We walk towards. I had him sit just outside the range. Then I had him take one step forward so that it picked us up and it opened. And then I had him step back and sit again and it closed. And I only had to do that one time. And he looked at me, looked at the door, stood up, took a step forward, and it opened. He took a step back and sat, and it closed. And the little light bulb went on, and it was a game. So it became a game. Oh, Skeeter, and he was proud of himself. He'd step in and go, look, and that tail's just a wagging, and the door's opening. And he'd step back, and the door would close. and it became a source of entertainment for him. Still, to this day, 7 years after we trained that, he's 9 years old now. One of the lures to going shopping is the automatic opening doors for Skeeter. He loves it. He wants to go play with the door. Going in and out is such a positive experience for him. Look what I can do, that he wants to go through the doors. If I let him, we'd go through the door over and over in circles. That's just, there was nothing negative. You know what I didn't do? Drag him through the door terrified until he stopped being terrified because he was being forced to go through the door. I've seen that. I've seen trainers who that's their method. Just make him go through. No. If he desires to go through, if it becomes entertaining to him, if it becomes something he wants to do, then it no longer is an issue. So that's the kind of shift in thinking I'm talking about. Change your perspective from teaching the dog what not to do to training the dog to do what you need it to do. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Look, there are shortcuts and there are easier ways to do things. Sure, use the snoot loop if you're having a pulling problem. But what I'm proposing to you is that when you focus your energy on what you don't want your dog to do, then you're losing the opportunity to train your dog to do what you want him to do. I have a dog that is just absolutely amazing, has incredible social graces, is egregious as all get out, loves to talk, or not egregious. Good grief, that's a bad word. Not egregious, gregarious as all get out. He loves people, absolutely loves people when he has permission. A reward for Skeeter after we go through trip through the store shopping, and it's been tough, is he has a favorite checkout lady at the grocery store, at the Food Lion. So his reward is we go check out there, and hopefully I have a couple of treats in my pocket so she can give him a treat, because that's one of his people. Skeeter has people, and she's one of his people. So I use that. So Skeeter will tolerate me going up and down the aisles, going back to the same aisle 3 times because I forgot what I was after. Because at the end, he knows, after we've spent 45 minutes in the store with me wandering around like chicken with my head cut off because I don't know what I'm doing, that he gets to go say hi to his lady. And she might have treats for him. He doesn't notice me sneaking treats over the belt at the checkout counter for him. But that doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. He gets the reward. He works to achieve that reward. And he's focused on, what do I do so that I can get the reward? Not anything else, not sticking his nose in the meat counter, nothing. He just wants to get to the point where he gets his reward. And then he wants to go out because he's got a sliding glass door, the automatic door, and he wants to go get the door. So the whole experience is positive from the point where I say, hey, Skeet, let's go get in the truck, because the truck is a reward. He's a happy, confident dog that absolutely loves to be where he is, wherever it is, because that's the way I trained him. I built that partnership and that team, that cooperative team with my dog. I built what I needed into the dog by the way that I trained him. Again, like I said at the beginning, this is not disparaging anybody. You need to train the dog in front of you, and you need to use the tools that you are capable of using. But if you take the time to be very, very picky about the dog you select and about finding some kind of a spark or connection before you commit to training that dog, and then that big word, that commitment to consistency, and to training and training and training and training. If you commit to that and you're consistent, you can build the relationship, you can build that team. It's slow going, it's not easy, but the reward at the end of it, a dog that is just, I can't tell you how many people just look at Skeeter and go, wow, what an amazing dog. And I don't feel like it's anything I did special except just take the time to train the dog. He doesn't do any tricks. He doesn't do none of that nonsense. He's not there to entertain people. Never taught him to shake. I didn't teach him to roll over. I didn't do any of that. That's not wrong. I just chose not to do it. But how he amazes them is by his calmness, his focus, and his demeanor. I've never seen a service dog behave so well. I'm sorry. He wouldn't be much of a service dog if he wasn't behaving. Getting ready to wrap it up. If you have any questions or comments and you're putting them in the Facebook live stream, I can't see them. I need you to click on the link. Tav put the link in the comments on the live stream. Click on that link, join into the webinar, and put your questions in there. If you've got any questions or comments, please, now's the time to add them. While we're waiting to see if there are any questions or comments, I want to tell you, if you like what we're doing, please let me know. Thanks, Tav. Appreciate that, brother. I need to let you know that, these capabilities cost me. They cost DV Radio. DV Radio is my support. And I'm using their business account to be able to do this. But this all costs. There are some ways that you can help to support both me and DV Radio. First of all, you can buy me a cup of coffee. ko-fi.com/PTSDog. Let's see if I can here. I'll drop the link into the comments here in the there. You can buy me a cup of coffee. $3.50 per donation. It goes to my PayPal account. PayPal does not take a chunk out of it. You can buy me one cup of coffee, or you can buy me 50 cups of coffee. But if you appreciate this, if this helps you, please help me, because it does. I'm paying to be able to do this. And I don't mind that. I don't mind it. It's worth it to me to be able to reach out to people. But please give me some help. Remember too, whether it's in June or August, which is the alternate date possibility, I'm going to Task Dogs 2020. I'm going to speak at Task Dogs. I need your help to get there. I'm still raising funds. I've raised about $500. I need about $2,000 more to be able to get there. We got to pay for gas. Got to be able to take copies of the books to sign. We've got to have hotel rooms, food. It's not an easy thing to just hop up and run to St. Louis for a weekend. I need your help. You can, again, probably the best way to make a donation is ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/PTSDog. Another way you can help is to donate and support DV Radio. Again, DV Radio is who's providing me the ability to do this. You can support them through Patreon, patreon.com/DV Radio. You can donate directly at the dvradio.net page. I think they have coffee now too. I think there's a DV Radio coffee. And the reason I think that is because they followed my coffee. So let me find them. And let me see if I can find them. Wow. I'm having trouble. Hang on a second here. I know I can find them. Explore. There we go. I knew there was a search option, DV Radio. Huh. Okay, they're not popping up. So use Patreon. Patreon.com/DV Radio is another way you can help. How else can you help? Buy PTS Dog gear. PTS Dog gear is the name of my store on Teespring. Another way you can help. Buy the children's book on Amazon.com. Why is that doggy in the store? Written by me, illustrated by Carla Nimitz. Um, Spread this children's book around. Everybody who's read it will tell you that this is an amazing book, and that this really does teach both the children and their parents how to behave when they see a service dog. Buy the original book, PTSDog, Post Traumatic Stress Disorder and the Service Dog. You can get it at booklocker.com. That's the publisher. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com. Anybody that does redistribution has the book available. If you want to buy nonprofits, by the way, nonprofits, if you need copies of either of the books, contact me and I will order them for you at cost, meaning I make nothing. Carla makes nothing on a children's book. We're both committed because the whole point of both of these books is education. We're both committed to providing the books at cost for nonprofits. No questions asked. If you're a nonprofit and you want a copy of either of the book, contact the PTS Dog page, message me, let me know, and we will put together an order at cost. If I could afford to give them to you myself, I would, believe me. But this, like I said, this costs me to provide this service to you, costs me to buy books to give away if I'm giving them away. It all costs. We could use your help. That's all I've got. If there's no questions or comments, thanks, guys. Thanks for putting up with me rambling about ideas that might be uncomfortable. That's kind of my goal, is to make people think through the process of handling a service dog. Think it through. That's part of being an artful handler. That's part of the accountability, responsibility, and training is thinking it through, understanding intellectually what it is what it is the journey you're embarking on. Appreciate everybody joining me. We'll see you again next week, Friday, 1 p.m. PTS Dog webinar. Tell your friends.